Join me for another painting in plein air session today at Blea Tarn in the Lake District. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. With my husband we arrived here a couple of days ago and it's our first time in the lakes. We've been mostly discovering all the highlights over the last couple of days. Before filming anything I wanted to make sure that I've actually been to the lakes and have explored at least some of the highlight areas before setting up the easel and taking time out of our vacation in order to paint. I'm so sorry for the light conditions. I will be painting that way, so this was the most logical setup, but for filming of course it's a different story, so I hope you can still see everything you need to see and everything is not completely blown out by the sun. As you can see, contrary to common belief, the weather in the UK is absolutely fantastic. It's a bit fresh, but we have a bright sun shining and illuminating the whole Lake District area and lighting up the mountain tops. Before I get started on the time lapse, I just wanted to address several issues maybe with the composition. And maybe this is better to do from behind the camera so that I can zoom into the scene. Okay, I've walked around this part of, so actually I arrived from there, that's where our parking is, and walked up here. From here you had a pretty straight in your face view on the mountain, but I continued to here because what I liked was this portion with the trees. I think this adds to the depth of the composition of this scene, and from the other side of the lake they were just so far away, so far on the left side, that they didn't feel as part of the composition. So I walked up here in order to, compress the composition a little bit, and drew the mountain, the right side of the mountain, and the trees closer together, so everything could be fit into one painting. And I don't know if you can see it, but you have quite a picturesque part of the wall that goes into the lake, and I thought this was such a nice detail, and if I can I will absolutely feature this in my scene. And now without further ado, let's get going. Okay, so funny story, not so funny. I've completely forgotten my palette in the car, at the car park. I think it's a bit too late to leave everything here or pack everything up, take it with me, go to the car park, get the palette and go back again. So I'll try to make do with what I have at hand. And this is my old palette from my last plein air session that I've all garbled up like this in order to fit into the backpack before throwing it out. Well, luckily for me I didn't throw it out yet, so I can try to reuse this, but this will make the session more complicated. But yeah, we'll make it work.
The first thing I wanted to get done was the lake, in order to give me a sense of horizon and the general proportions of the composition. So I started with the deeper colors before gradually adding in the highlights and reflections in the water. Next came the grass in the immediate foreground in order to complete the bottom half of the painting. Then I started drawing in the 3 different layers of the mountain ridge. I chose to block in the areas in the dominant color. For instance, the mountain closest to me was predominantly covered in grass, so I painted it green before adding in the grey details. The one furthest away was, on the contrary, predominantly stone grey. Afterwards, I started working on the sky before filling in the green hills at the foot of the mountains, as well as the bit with the forest. Lastly, I spent some time on adding the details in the rocks and touching up the sky whenever I felt that the new light was better than what I had before. In the windy conditions, I changed my mind quite a bit. The temptation of chasing the best light is big, but in hindsight, if you have limited time, I would advise against that. The reason for this being, when you make changes in the sky and thus the light conditions in your painting, you have to touch up all the different areas affected by the change in light, for instance the mountain peaks, the color of the grasses and the trees. Okay, disclaimer. Unfortunately, at that moment, I completely forgot to turn on my mic, so only the one of the camera was actually on, and it is not nearly strong enough to catch my voice in these windy conditions. In order to understand what I'm saying in this last part, please turn on the subtitles. I'm so sorry it turned out that way. I have to get better at managing the sound.
And that was the plein air session for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you liked it and find it useful. As usually, I will show you how I finish the painting, a tone, and detail everything out. But this is it for the session on location. I hope you liked it, and I hope that I see you the next time in the next video. Bye! If you want to see more of my works available for purchase, please consider checking out my website. I leave the link in the description. If you have an idea for a painting or lino print that you would want me to create especially for you, please don't hesitate to reach out through the contact form of my website.